Rain pattered against the cracked windows of the abandoned pharmacy as Lyra Winters sorted through her dwindling medical supplies. The flickering light of her solar lamp cast dancing shadows across shelves filled with salvaged medicine and makeshift treatments. 20 years after the cataclysm that brought the aliens to Earth, humanity still clung to the ruins of civilization like moss to concrete. Lyra tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear, carefully counting antibiotics. The human security force would execute her if they discovered she treated aliens, but her oath as a doctor preceded any laws born of fear and hatred. The soft chime of the proximity sensor interrupted her inventory. Someone had crossed the perimeter she'd set up around her hidden clinic. Through the security feed, she watched a tall figure stumble through the rain. Their crystalline skin caught what little moonlight filtered through the clouds, revealing the distinctive features of a stellaran, one of the refugee species that had fled their dying world. The alien clutched their side, silvery blood seeping between their fingers. "Damn it," Lyra muttered, already gathering supplies. She knew she should turn them away. Last week, 3 doctors had been publicly executed for alien sympathy. But as she watched the wounded creature collapse against her door, she remembered why she'd chosen this path. The alien was unconscious when she dragged them inside. Up close, their crystalline skin formed intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with inner light. A deep gash ran across their torso, likely from a human security force energy blade. As she cleaned the wound, the alien's eyes fluttered open, all 4 of them, in shades of deep purple. "Be still," Lyra said softly. "You're safe here." Why help me?" Their voice was melodic, despite the pain. "Your kind would kill you for this." "I'm a doctor. I help everyone." She administered a local anesthetic. "I'm Lyra. Do you have a name?" "Ravix," they replied, watching her work with fascination. "I was searching for medicine. My people are sick." "The camps." Lyra nodded grimly. The refugee camps were breeding grounds for disease, intentionally kept that way by the authorities to keep the alien population weak. "The wound isn't too deep." "You're lucky, their blades usually cut deeper." "Not luck. Training." Ravix's expression hardened. "I was a warrior on my world. Now I steal medicine like a common criminal." As Lyra stitched the wound, she learned more. Ravix had been leading a group of Stellarans seeking asylum when the cataclysm struck. They'd been trapped on Earth when the dimensional rifts closed, leaving them at humanity's mercy. Now they survived in the shadows, treated as parasites rather than refugees. A sudden pounding at the door made them both freeze. "Security force. Open up." Lyra's heart raced. She quickly helped Ravix into a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards, one of many modifications she'd made to her clinic. As she sealed it, she whispered, "Stay quiet. I'll handle this." The door burst open before she could reach it. 3 security force officers in their distinctive black armor stormed in, led by Captain Nikolai Voss, a man whose reputation for cruelty preceded him. "Dr. Winters," he drawled, cold eyes scanning the room. "We've had reports of unusual activity in this sector. Alien sightings." He ran a finger along a shelf, examining it for dust. "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" Lyra forced a smile. "Just treating the usual patients, Captain. Radiation sickness, mostly. Feel free to look around." She held her breath as they searched, praying they wouldn't find the concealed compartment. Voss paused near where Ravix was hidden, and for a moment, Lyra thought it was over. But he moved on, finding nothing but medical supplies and patient records. "Remember, Doctor," Voss said as they prepared to leave, "harboring aliens is treason. And I always catch traitors." His smile didn't reach his eyes. Eventually. After they left, Lyra sagged against the wall, heart pounding. She helped Ravix from the hiding place, noting how they moved with careful precision despite their injury. "A warrior indeed. You risked everything for me," Ravix said softly, their crystalline features catching the lamplight. Why? Lyra met their gaze. Because someone has to. Because this hatred between our peoples will destroy us all if we let it. She began gathering supplies into a bag. The security force will be watching this place now. You need to get these medicines to your people, and I need to relocate my clinic. We both need to disappear. Ravix touched her arm, their skin cool and smooth. Come with me. My people can protect you. We have ways of staying hidden. Lyra looked around at her clinic, at the life she'd built helping others in secret. She thought of Vasa's threat, of the executed doctors, of all the suffering she'd witnessed. Perhaps it was time to do more than just heal the wounds of this broken world. All right, she said, gathering her most essential supplies. But we'll need to help others, both human and Stellaran. This has to be about more than just survival. Ravix's features shifted in what she recognized as a smile. Perhaps that is why our paths crossed, Lyra Winters. To show both our peoples there is another way. As they slipped out into the rain-soaked night, Lyra felt the weight of her decision, and the strange lightness of hope. Sometimes the greatest acts of healing required more than medicine. Sometimes they required the courage to defy an unjust world, and the wisdom to see beauty in differences. Together, they vanished into the shadows of Neo-Portland, leaving behind the first ripples of what would become a wave of change. The real challenge, and their story, was just beginning. The underground tunnels beneath Neo-Portland's industrial sector wound like arteries through the city's broken heart. Lyra followed Ravix through the darkness, their crystalline skin providing just enough bioluminescence to light the way. 2 weeks had passed since she'd abandoned her clinic, and each day revealed new horrors about the world she thought she knew. The refugee camp is just ahead, Ravix whispered, their 4 purple eyes scanning the shadows. But something feels wrong. The patrols have changed their patterns. Lyra clutched her medical bag closer. They'd been making regular supply runs to the camp, bringing medicine to the hundreds of Stellarans trapped within its electrified walls. But tonight, the air felt heavy with tension. A scream shattered the silence. That came from the medical tent, Lyra said, already moving. Ravix caught her arm, their crystalline features tight with concern. Wait. Listen. The rhythmic thump of security force boots echoed through the tunnels. But these weren't the usual patrols. Through a grating above, they watched as black-armored figures led a line of Stellaran prisoners away from the camp. Among them was Captain Voss, speaking into a comm device. Test subjects secured. Proceeding to Facility 7. Lyra's blood ran cold. Test subjects. We need to follow them, Ravix said, their voice hard with fury. Many of those prisoners are healers, like you. The brightest minds among my people. They tracked the convoy through maintenance tunnels, emerging in a sector of the city Lyra had never seen. A massive structure rose before them, its walls gleaming with new metal, a stark contrast to the ruins around it. The sign read, Advanced Medical Research Division. I don't understand, Lyra whispered as they watched the prisoners being led inside. This facility doesn't exist in any official records. Perhaps that's the point. Ravix's skin pulsed with agitation. We need to get inside. It took them 3 days to find a way. Lyra used her medical credentials to access the facility's outer perimeter, while Ravix's warrior training helped them navigate the security systems. What they discovered inside would haunt them forever. The facility was a laboratory, but not for healing. Stellarans were strapped to tables, their crystalline bodies subjected to horrific experiments. Scientists in white hazmat suits extracted samples of their bioluminescent tissue, testing its properties for weapons development. They're trying to weaponize our biological properties, Ravix said, their voice trembling with rage as they downloaded files from a terminal. Using our light-generating abilities to create devastating energy weapons. Lyra fought back nausea as she read through medical charts. These aren't just weapons experiments. They're trying to find ways to control your people's minds. To turn you into living weapons. A familiar voice made them both freeze. Brilliant deduction, Dr. Winters. Captain Voss stepped from the shadows, flanked by guards. His cold smile hadn't changed. I knew if we let the right rumors spread, someone would come investigating. I just didn't expect it to be you. Why? Lyra demanded, backing away. These people came to us for help. Because they're not people, Doctor. They're resources. Their biology could give us unprecedented military advantages. He drew his weapon. And now you'll both help us perfect the process. But Ravix had been waiting for this moment. Their skin flared with brilliant light, temporarily blinding their captors. Lyra felt their cool hand grab hers as they ran, alarms blaring behind them. They didn't stop running until they reached a safe house deep in the ruins, one of many hidden sanctuaries maintained by a growing network of human and Stellaran allies. We can't let them continue these experiments, Lyra said, hands shaking as she treated a burn on Ravix's arm where a guard's weapon had grazed them. No, Ravix agreed, their purple eyes meeting hers. But we have something they don't expect, proof. And allies on both sides. They spent the night reviewing the stolen data, reaching out to trusted contacts. The experiments weren't just confined to Neo-Portland. Similar facilities existed in other cities, all part of a coordinated effort to exploit the Stellaran's unique biology. We'll need help, Lyra said, looking at the faces of the imprisoned healers. More humans who'll stand with us. More Stellarans willing to fight. Ravix touched her shoulder, their skin glowing softly in the darkness. There's something else you should know. The cataclysm that trapped us here, it wasn't an accident. These files suggest your government knew about our arrival in advance. They wanted us here, contained, to use as test subjects. Lyra felt her world shift again. Everything she believed about the past 20 years had been built on lies. But as she looked at Ravix, she saw not an alien refugee, but a person fighting for their people's survival. Someone she'd grown to care for more deeply than she'd expected. Then we'll expose everything, she said firmly. The experiments, the lies, all of it. Whatever it takes. Ravix's features softened in that now familiar smile. Together. Together. As dawn broke over the ruined city, they began planning their next move. They had evidence, they had allies, and most importantly, they had each other. But they also had powerful enemies who would stop at nothing to keep their secrets buried. The real war was just beginning. The abandoned subway station had become their war room. Maps and blueprints covered the walls, while dozens of faces, both human and Stellaran, gathered around makeshift tables. 1 month had passed since discovering Facility 7's horrific secrets, and their small act of defiance had grown into something larger than Lyra could have imagined. The northern security grid goes down for maintenance at 0200, said Jensen, a former security force technician who defected after witnessing the experiments. His dark skin was illuminated by the soft glow of Stellaran light crystals. That's our window. Ravix stood at the center of the group, their crystalline form commanding attention. Our scouts confirm 37 of our people are still alive inside. 15 are healers. They looked at Lyra. Your people's healers are there too. Doctors who refuse to participate in the experiments. Lyra studied the facility's layout. In the past weeks, she'd learned to think like a warrior instead of just a healer. The medical wing has the weakest security. They don't expect an attack from inside. Because they don't expect their prisoners to fight back, said Nara, a Stellaran healer whose family was among the captured. Her crystal patterns were more delicate than Ravix's, forming swirling designs that reflected her scholarly background. But we've been preparing. The plan was audacious. While Lyra led a team posing as medical staff, Ravix would guide a strike force through the maintenance tunnels. Jensen's tech skills would blind the security systems, allowing Nara's group to free the prisoners. Simple in theory. Lethal if it failed. Remember, Lyra addressed the gathered resistance, we're not just freeing prisoners. We're gathering evidence. Everything we find proves what they're doing to both our peoples. As the others dispersed to prepare, Ravix pulled Lyra aside. Their purple eyes held concern. You don't have to be on the front line. Your medical skills are exactly why I need to be there, she interrupted, touching their cool crystalline hand. Those prisoners will need immediate treatment. And she hesitated, I need to face Voss myself. Ravix's features softened. You still blame yourself for not seeing the truth sooner. I was blind. So many of us were. She looked at their joined hands, human flesh against living crystal. But not anymore. The mission began at midnight. Lyra's team, dressed in stolen medical uniforms, entered through the main gate. Her heart pounded as guards checked their credentials, forged documents that had cost 3 resistance members their lives to obtain. They were inside when the first explosion rocked the facility. Ravix's team, right on schedule. Alarms blared as guards rushed toward the distraction, leaving the medical wing vulnerable. Now! Lyra commanded. Her team overpowered the remaining guards while Jensen's virus crashed the security systems. Through their earpieces, they heard Ravix's voice, Eastern Sector cleared. Moving to extraction points. But something felt wrong. The guards had fallen too easily. And where was Voss? They found the prisoner cells and began freeing the captives. The sight of their injuries, the surgical scars and injection marks, made Lyra's blood boil. Some were too weak to walk, requiring immediate medical attention. Dr. Winters. Voss's voice echoed through the speakers. Did you really think we wouldn't be ready? That we wouldn't use your predictable compassion against you? Blast doors began sealing throughout the facility. Through the security feeds, Lyra watched in horror as elite security force units emerged from hidden chambers, trapping resistance teams throughout the building. Ravix, she called through the comm, it's a trap. I know. Their voice was calm despite the sounds of combat. But so is our plan. That's when the lights went out, all of them. In the total darkness, something extraordinary happened. Every Stellaran prisoner began to glow, their crystal forms pulsing with synchronized light. They'd been practicing this, Lyra realized. Waiting for this moment. The coordinated bioluminescence overwhelmed the security force's night vision systems, rendering them blind. Through the chaos, Ravix's voice guided their people to safety through pre-planned routes. Lyra led her group toward the rendezvous point, but a familiar figure blocked their path. Voss stood alone, his armor scorched from combat. You've ruined everything, he snarled, raising his weapon. Years of research, of progress. Of torture, Lyra cut him off. But we found your real research files. The ones proving you caused the cataclysm. They're already being transmitted across every emergency broadcast system in the city. Voss fired, but Ravix appeared from nowhere, their crystalline body deflecting the blast. Together, they subdued him, leaving him unconscious as the facility crumbled around them. The escape was chaos, but a controlled one. Their losses were minimal, 3 wounded, no dead. As they regrouped in the tunnels, Lyra worked tirelessly to treat the freed prisoners, their stories of survival bringing tears to her eyes. The security force will retaliate, Jensen warned as they reached their safe house. They'll come for all of us now. Let them come, Ravix said, helping Lyra tend to the wounded. We're stronger together than they ever expected. Lyra watched as humans and Stellarans worked side by side, caring for each other without hesitation or prejudice. This was what healing really meant, not just bodies, but the rifts between peoples. We've struck the first real blow, she said, finally allowing herself to rest against Ravix's cool shoulder. But the war for truth is just beginning. Ravix's crystal patterns glowed softly in response. Truth, justice, and something more. Their 4 eyes met hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. Hope. As the resistance celebrated their victory, Lyra knew tomorrow would bring new challenges. But looking at the lives they'd saved, the bonds they'd forged, she felt ready to face whatever came next. The chains of prejudice and fear were breaking, one link at a time. The Resistance's hidden base in the old hydroelectric plant hummed with tension. 2 months after the Facility 7 raid, their movement had grown exponentially, but with growth came vulnerability. Lyra sensed the unrest brewing beneath the surface as she made her evening rounds. Another supply cache was compromised, Jensen reported, his face grim in the crystal light. Third one this week. Someone's feeding the security force information. Ravix paced the command center, their crystalline form reflecting the anxiety that plagued them all. The raids are getting closer. They're trying to find our medical facilities. The successful rescue had inspired others to join their cause, but not all with pure intentions. The security force had doubled the bounty for information on resistance leaders, particularly Lyra and Ravix. Every new face could be a potential threat. Nara burst into the room, her crystal patterns pulsing with distress. The eastern safe house has fallen. They knew exactly when to strike, during the prisoner transfer. How many? Lyra's heart sank. 12 captured. Both humans and Stellarans. Nara's voice cracked. Including my sister. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Only their inner circle had known about the transfer. The traitor was someone close to them. Later that night, Lyra found Ravix alone in the observation deck, staring at the ruined city skyline. Their 4 eyes reflected the distant fires of security force patrols. You should rest, they said without turning. The wounded need their healer at full strength. So does their warrior. Lyra touched their shoulder, feeling the familiar cool smoothness of their crystalline skin. We'll find who did this. I already have suspicions. Ravix's voice was heavy. But I pray I'm wrong. Their fears were confirmed the next morning. Jensen discovered encrypted transmissions being sent from within their base, from the medical wing's communications array. The source, Dr. Reed, one of their most trusted human physicians. When confronted, Reed broke down. They have my daughter, he sobbed. Voss promised to release her if I helped them. I didn't know they'd take Nara's sister. I didn't know. Enough. Ravix's tone was ice. Your actions have condemned others' children to suffering. But Lyra saw an opportunity. Wait. We can use this. She turned to Reed. Your next transmission, make it count. They spent the next day preparing their trap. Reed sent one final message, coordinates for a massive gathering of resistance leadership. The security force would commit everything to such a target. They'll empty their headquarters for this strike, Jensen said, monitoring the enemy's communications. Exactly as we planned. While Voss's forces converged on the false meeting point, the Resistance's true strike team infiltrated the weakened security force headquarters. Their target, the central database containing evidence of all experiments, and the location of every detention facility. But as they breached the inner security, they found Voss waiting with an elite guard unit. Predictable, he sneered. Using our spy against us. I expected better, Dr. Winters. Then you'll love this, Lyra replied as Nara's team emerged from hiding. The Stellaran synchronized light show had become their signature tactic, but this time, the security force was ready. Energy shields protected their eyes as they opened fire. The battle turned brutal. Jensen fell, wounded but alive. Nara took a blast meant for Lyra, her crystal form cracking but holding. Through the chaos, Lyra and Ravix fought their way to the central server room. They had minutes to download the data before reinforcements arrived. Lyra. Ravix's voice was urgent. The files, they're not just about experiments. They're about us. All of us. The screens showed the truth, the cataclysm had been orchestrated to capture not just any aliens, but specifically the Stellarans. Their unique biology made them perfect for weaponization. Humanity's leaders had sacrificed millions of their own people to secure this resource. The world needs to see this, Lyra said, initiating the download. Every human, every Stellaran. A shot rang out. Lyra felt searing pain as Vasa's energy blade caught her side. Ravix roared, their crystalline form blazing with fury as they engaged him in combat. You can't stop what's coming, Vas spat, trading blows with the Stellaran warrior. The power we'll gain was never yours to take, Ravix finished, their combat training evident in every move. But Vas fought with desperate intensity, driving them back. Lyra, despite her wound, managed to complete the download. It's done. Ravix, we have to go. Their eyes met across the room, human and alien, healer and warrior, two souls united by a cause greater than themselves. In that moment, something shifted between them, an unspoken truth finally acknowledged. As security forces breached the outer defenses, they escaped through maintenance tunnels, carrying their wounded and their precious data. The truth that would change everything was in their hands, but the cost had been steep. Back at their base, as Lyra treated the injured, Ravix never left her side. You're still bleeding, they observed softly. Some wounds are worth bearing, she replied, thinking of all they'd discovered. But tomorrow. Tomorrow we show the world what we found. Ravix's crystal patterns glowed with determination. And we end this war. As they prepared for their final battle, Lyra realized that healing wasn't just about mending bodies or exposing truth. Sometimes it was about finding light in the darkest places, even if that light came from the most unexpected sources. The storm was reaching its peak, but they would face it together. Dawn broke over Neoportland as Lyra and Ravix stood before their assembled forces. Humans and Stellarans filled the vast underground chamber, their faces illuminated by crystal light and determination. The data they'd stolen had been decoded, revealing horrors beyond imagination, and hope beyond measure. Today, we don't just fight for freedom, Ravix addressed the crowd, their voice carrying to every corner. We fight for truth. For a future where our people stand together. Lyra stepped forward, her healing tools replaced with tactical gear. The security force expects us to hide, to strike from shadows. Instead, we march in daylight, showing both our peoples who we really are. Their plan was audacious. While Jensen's team would broadcast the evidence of experimentation across every communication channel, the resistance would occupy the central plaza, the heart of the city where humans and Stellarans could witness the truth together. Remember, Nara instructed the healers, her crystal form barely showing the scars of recent battle, when the violence starts, we protect everyone. Human or Stellaran, militant or civilian. We show them what unity truly means. They moved through the morning crowds, emerging from every alley and doorway. Hundreds of resistance members, no longer hiding their allegiance. The Stellarans' crystal forms caught the sunlight, creating a display of light that drew every eye. Security force units scrambled to respond, but they faced an enemy they hadn't expected, public attention. Civilians stopped to watch, their phones recording as Lyra's voice rang out across hastily erected speakers. 20 years ago, your leaders lied. The evidence played on massive screens. The cataclysm wasn't an accident. It was an orchestrated attack, not against humanity, but by humanity's leaders against us all. The crowd grew as the truth unfolded. Images of experiments, proof of the conspiracy, and records of those lost to Vasa's programs. But more importantly, they showed something else, humans and Stellarans working together, healing together, fighting together. Vas arrived with elite units, their weapons charged. Stand down, he commanded, but his voice lacked its usual authority. These aliens have corrupted your minds. The only corruption, Ravix's voice boomed, is the hatred you fed both our peoples. Their crystal form blazed like a star as they stepped forward. Look around you. Look at what we can become together. The security forces hesitated, seeing their fellow humans standing shoulder to shoulder with the aliens they'd been taught to fear. In that moment of uncertainty, something remarkable happened. A young human girl broke from the crowd, running to help a wounded Stellaran child. Their parents followed, then others. The barrier between species dissolved in simple acts of compassion. Fire! Voss ordered, raising his weapon at the children. But his own troops turned against him. No more, said a security officer, removing his helmet. We've seen enough. The fighting was brief, isolated to only the most fanatical security force members. When it ended, Voss stood alone, surrounded by the very unity he'd fought to prevent. You've destroyed everything, he snarled at Lyra and Ravix. No, Lyra replied, taking Ravix's crystalline hand in hers. We've built something new. The aftermath brought rapid change. The evidence sparked investigations at the highest levels. Detention facilities were opened, families reunited, and the truth about the cataclysm became public knowledge. But the real transformation happened in the streets, in hospitals, in everyday life as humans and Stellarans began to see each other as people rather than threats. Months later, Lyra stood with Ravix on the roof of their new medical center, a place where both species could seek healing together. The sun set over a city slowly rebuilding, not just its structures, but its soul. Do you ever regret it? Ravix asked softly. Choosing this path. Lyra watched a group of human and Stellaran children playing below, their laughter carrying on the evening air. How could I? It led me to you. To this. Ravix's crystal patterns glowed with emotion as they turned to her. The old writings of my people speak of souls that shine together, transcending physical forms. I never understood until I met you. Then we'll keep shining, Lyra said, reaching up to touch their luminescent face. Together. As night fell over Neoportland, crystal lights blazed to life throughout the city, not in hiding, but in celebration. Humans and Stellarans walked its streets without fear, sharing their strengths, healing their wounds, building a future neither species could have achieved alone. And in that light, a doctor and a warrior had found something more precious than victory. They'd found hope, justice, and a love that bridged the stars themselves. The war was over. The healing had begun.